According to the latest U.S. Census, North Carolina has a poverty rate of approximately 18%. As politicians in the state cut back on subsidies, many residents have turned to food banks to feed their families. William DENSELOW has the report.
Another arrival of some much-needed supplies. At this food bank in North Carolina, some £54 million of food is distributed to their 65,000 clients. But with around 1 in 6 people in the state struggling to find enough to eat each month, people here say not enough is being done to help those most in need.
Because of that, lack of resources on a more constant basis, they are, returning back to the food pantries for services on a more chronic or more repetitive timeline.
As state cuts continue after the recession, in 2013 North Carolina halted unemployment benefits for those that have been out of work for over 20 weeks. Seen as a bold move, the state has now become a battleground for economists and politicians alike as to whether this move forces people back into the labour market. But with such huge levels of poverty in North Carolina, some experts say this policy cripples those that have already fallen on tough times.
North Carolina has been too guilty of ignoring poor people, now into waging war against them, so that various political leaders could prove their bona fides to a Tea Party movement.
It's a view those in favour of the cuts reject. For the Republican-controlled legislature, they argue it stops people becoming hooked on benefits. Those in favour of these benefit cuts say it stops the dependency on welfare and gets people out looking for jobs. It's a view rejected by many groups in North Carolina who argue that these benefits provide a leg up for those in need. And while the unemployment rate in North Carolina is now down below 6%, some economists say this doesn't tell the whole story. Professor Patrick Conway describes the argument in favour of the cuts as a nice fairy tale, but says the reality is that around 300,000 people simply stopped looking for work.
They disappear from the labour force. That doesn't mean they have a job. It simply means that they no longer increase the unemployment rate by being in the labour force and looking for work. They've pulled out, they've become discouraged, and the unemployment rate falls.
So while many look to statistics for proof that the cuts are working, people that help in food banks like this say here lies the evidence that more has to be done to help those in need to get back on their feet. William DENSELOW, Telesaur, North Carolina.